Hello everyone. This video is created to assist students on the proper use of the North Carolina Foundations for Early Learning and Development for the purposes of observation. So here we have an example of a page that lists the domain. It's in the taller category or taller font. And underneath it, it has the subdomain, and then underneath that is listed a goal that you would want children to be showing underneath the subdomain. Underneath each goal that is listed under each subdomain under each domain, you will notice the developmental indicators. And those developmental indicators are listed under age ranges for children, infants through older preschoolers. Notice that there is no specific age range for each of these developmental indicators under infants, young toddlers, young preschoolers, and older preschoolers. The developmental indicator provides more specific information about what the children should know or be able to do during this particular age of their development. However, notice that even though it is listed as specific information for that particular age range child, it is not a checklist or an assessment tool and how it should be used. It is strictly listed as a developmental indicator of what you may see during these age ranges. In the Foundations book, you will notice, as I've already previously discussed, the developmental indicators are broken up by age ranges, infants through older preschoolers. However, if you'll notice here, this little blurb, it talks about how the developmental indicators are divided into overlapping age levels as shown below. So if you'll look here, infants birth to 12 months, younger toddlers 8 to 24 months. So you've got 4 months here where there's an overlap in an infant and a young toddler. And that again is because the development of children varies, and you may have an 8-month-old who's walking and doing more things that are categorized under a developmental indicator of a young toddler, and then you may have an infant who's 12 months who is still definitely in the infant developmental indicators. So pay attention to that as you're looking through your developmental indicators, that it really is age specific and individually appropriateness that we're looking for here. Also, I'd like to point out the goals and the developmental indicators, how they should be used and how they should not be used. This is very important when you're using the foundations. The foundations should promote development of the whole child, including all of the domains of development. Learning characteristics, if you'll just notice that here, that's really kind of that approaches to play and learning. How do they approach play and learning? Are they quiet? Are they active? Are they curious? Or are they really energized and excited? So that's what they mean by learning characteristics. Provide a common set of expectations for children's development. It promotes a shared responsibility for all of us in the early childhood field in North Carolina. We all know infants through age 5 or infants through older preschoolers should be using these developmental indicators, these goals, these subdomains, and these domains for ensuring that children's development is on track as they leave childcare environments at the preschool age. It emphasizes the importance of play as instructional strategy that promotes early learning in early childhood programs. It supports safe, clean, caring, and effective learning environments. It supports appropriate teaching practices and provides a guide, only a guide, for gauging children's progress. It encourages family values and community involvement in promoting children's success, and it reflects and values diversity across the entire state of North Carolina. However, please note that these goals and developmental indicators should not be used as a standalone isolation form of what we believe children's development and quality early education programs should look like. It should not serve as an assessment checklist or evaluation tool in making decisions about children's entry into program. This is not an assessment tool. This is strictly to guide you in children's development, and as you're planning for activities in the classroom, this will help you use those. It should not be used to limit children's experiences or exclude them from learning opportunities. It should not set up conflicting expectations or requirements. It should never decide that a child has failed in any way, and it should not emphasize child outcomes over program requirements. As you are getting into specifics of the Foundation's document and you observe children, you may be asked to identify a domain, subdomain, and goal that you are seeing in a child's behavior or development. This could be one of the easier methods of identifying the domains, subdomains, and goals. You have a few pages at the beginning of the Foundations book that include the specific domains, and they have an easy goal guide. But if you get to a point where you need to identify developmental indicators, those pages are further into the actual Foundations document and will need to be looked at more closely if you're needing to identify exactly where a child's development is, which might help guide you in your planning down the road. This specifically is the approaches to play and learning domain, and you notice there are 4 separate subdomains under the APL domain, and under each of those subdomains are the specific goals. When you're writing out what a goal might be, make sure you write it the way it's listed as you see here. Here is an easy access for the emotional and social domain, as well as the health and physical development domain, and the language development and communication domain. But in your Foundations book, the current book, which I believe is in reprint right now, there's a mistake under this page in your Foundations book. In this easy access page, you will notice that under the Foundations for Reading, it skips goal 9 and 10. So you would need to refer to page 92 in your Foundations book to get to those particular goals in this area. So just make sure that you're aware of that is missing currently in the current edition of the Foundations book. And then last, you've got your cognitive development domain. Here's an example of a page from the emotional and social development domain specifically goal number 5, which you would find under the subdomain of developing a sense of self with others. This is where you would find the indicators, the developmental indicators of where a child might be showing where they are in their development. So what age level they might be showing where they fall. So if you are asked to identify a developmental indicator, you will need to go further into the Foundations booklet and find the domain, and each specific goal in every domain, you will be able to find a page related to that goal that lists the developmental indicators for all age levels for the Foundations booklet.